Welcome, everybody. We're back. And today is one that I have worked on and we have worked on together with my guest, Tyler Meckes, Director of Data Operations at 11 Software. Dude, we have been talking for, I want to say a year. Like, legitimately, I think it was a year. And we said, hey, let's do something together. And we finally worked our schedules. Literally, it's 7 a.m. I have coffee sitting right here, right? Here you go. I love the coffee mug too. It says blessed, by the way. Like, so much. So happy to have you. But for everybody listening, Tyler is the reason I wanted to really have him on for you guys is because he starts in sales, he goes into operations, he crushes it, and he's doing this unique thing on the side that I want to get into, man. So, Tyler, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Dave, and I want to say thank you so much for the patience in trying to book this. I know, like you said, it's been at least over a year, and I want to thank you as well. A couple months ago, for those who don't know, I took a little trip down to Dave's neck of the woods in Raleigh, and he was so nice to come out and see me and my family, and we got to talk for a little bit, and really got to tell me about the area. So it was great meeting you, Dave, and really excited to be here as
Oh,
well.
that was a highlight, man. Like you hit me up like 2 days earlier and said, "Hey, we're coming down." I said, "Where are you looking?" And literally, you're looking about 5 minutes down the road from me, right? And I said, "Yeah, I'm not a real estate agent, but I can guide you on like what I know. Here's a good burger spot. Here's a good lake that I always walk around, right? And thankfully, the weather for you guys was awesome, right? So you get to come down and see like no traffic, some burger spots, right? That's. What more do you want? Barbecue for North Carolina? There you go.
Absolutely. I think it was like 100 something degrees too, but
It
that's
was hot. I remember sweating. I remember a picture we took together. We're like sweating. I'm like, dude, crop that thing. I was like, I'm drenched. Right. Yeah, I do remember that. Good memory. That's funny. So let's get in. So, for a lot of people who've been listening to me, I like going back to people's backgrounds and talking about the hard times and how they worked through it, how it shaped their lives and stuff like that. And I think for you, man, I kept coming back to your piece where you crushed in sales. You had all these awards. You're talking President's Club and every award you can look at for a quarter or for a year, and then you make the leap out of sales and you go into operations and all of that piece that goes with it. And I really kept coming back to that because a lot of people are like, man, that's unique. That's different. Hey, okay, you couldn't make it in sales. Oh, you went to Rev Op. And that's not the case at all. You just loved it. And I want to get into that, man. What made you make that jump? Like, let's just dive in.
yeah, absolutely. So I'll even take that story back a little bit further than that because I think it even provides a little bit more uniqueness. So before sales, even I studied exercise physiology, exercise science. So I did my bachelor's degree, and much like any other kid, I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I could vividly remember sitting on my parents' couch saying, "What am I going to do? What major do I want to pick?" I kind of want to do something. I want to help people. I like the sciences. I've always been good at math. So let's just pick exercise science and we could change it when we're there if we need to.
Mhm.
Well, I don't know, however many years ago now, I never changed it. I did my bachelor's degree and I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I ended up going to get my master's degree. They offered me a graduate assistant position, so I got to do research. I got to do some scholar like a presentation at a conference. I got to teach undergrads, so I got all of this really great experience on how to synthesize data and take these really complex things and simplify them down. And ultimately teaching is a really important skill also. And then ultimately, once I got my master's degree, I then realized that I probably could make the same amount as in an entry level sales role, even with a master's degree. So that was where the opportunity was. I needed a job, and that's where Dave was talking about how I did incredibly well at my first role. Called it was at Connection. It was
Mhm.
an IT reseller. So I got to learn so much about that full cycle rep. I didn't know what a BDR was. I had to go and do the 70 to 100 cold calls a day. Then once you land a customer, then it's the expanding and I was the customer success, the account executive full fledged for 3.5 years. And that really set the foundation for my sales career. Obviously you mentioned, hey, move from sales to operations. That was over the course of 5 or 6 years. And in between that first sales job and my role now at 11 Software as the director of data operations here, I really built a very strong foundation of across a couple different roles. I was the full cycle rep, so I got to learn BDR, sales, customer success, and then I went to Vidyard for a little bit where I got to be comfortable on video, and then ultimately went to a company called Dually where I built out their, Series B company to build out their account management function, right? So they had enough customers where they're like, hey, we need to start expanding them. So I got incredible experience working with the executives there of, in customer success and finance. And really, this is where I really started to learn that like cross-functional skill and how important it is to work with different departments. And then fast forward a little bit forward, a little bit more held roles from, like seed stage companies, all the way to, my last two roles before where I am today was at a HubSpot marketing agency. And all of these are important, by the way, because they really lay the foundation for where I am today and how I got into operations. So I got to, at this HubSpot agency, I got to work with all different kinds of customers on a daily basis. I remember one afternoon I spoke to it was an adoption agency, a religious organization, and a woodworking company, all in the same afternoon, all trying to leverage HubSpot for different uses. So I tell people I got a master class in HubSpot because I got to see so many different ways that the solution was utilized. Then my last company, I was at a company called Pipe Dream, which is an automation company. It's like a developer-friendly Zapier, if you will. And I was their second go-to-market hire. And I got to, I started in partnerships there because all of my previous years of working with partners and doing things really allowed me to get to that role. And then, I was fortunate enough they actually were acquired by Workday. And then, fast forward to now, I'm the director of data operations. Now, I talked about these different roles and the different departments I've been in, and that foundation is truly why or how I'm going to be successful in my role in data ops because right now I'm working with all different departments trying to streamline our data and streamline how the business scales. And I have a unique perspective because I sat in the role of I understand what it is to sell and how tough that is. I understand the customer success side and what we need to do to make customers excel. And I know how important it is for finance to be able to see all of the data for these different roles. So really, my journey, I had to take these steps to be where I am today. And it's easy to look back and say, hey, why did you make that role switch or how so? But really, before even just making this jump to where I am today, I'm standing on the foundation of all of my previous experience, and I use that on a daily basis.
Yeah, so just like we said, right before we hit the record button here, I'm going to go off on kind of I'm going to go off, I'm off pattern. You sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, made a conscious decision to kind of change roles and pick up different experiences, right? And look what it's done. And I think it's so interesting to me because I spent time in recruiting. And in recruiting, you're always going to look at, hey, how long were you in your previous role? Are you hopping jobs? Is this a good fit for my client? What do you want out of this role, etc. All those roles have now made you incredibly well-rounded, diverse, able to kind of do your role with, expertise. Talk on that, man. Is that something like looking back? Was there conscious decisions? Did you kind of, I don't want to say luck into it, but it just kind of happened by circumstance where you meet somebody and network and away we go? Or how did that come to be?
It's really funny you say that, Dave. And I even wrote down, I take notes here too, when I'm having these conversations, whether I'm hosting a podcast as well, which I'm excited to have you, Dave.
Yeah.
But but you mentioned conscious, and my journey is far from being conscious. Remember, over the past, we're recording this January of 2026. So, I've gained these past skills over the last 6 or so years. And 6 years ago, it was the COVID-19 pandemic.
Hmm.
Fortunately, I was in a great industry in IT for that. But when you say conscious, like I've been through the hard times of SaaS where, there's been through reductions of force. I've seen a lot of these situations. I was scrambling to find different roles at sometimes too. So I'd say it's far from conscious, but also that being said, I realized that, I think it started when went from exercise science to, well, it did start when I went from exercise science to my professional job, because I realized quickly that the skill, like it's more important that the skills that you develop than the roles or the actual what I studied in college, right? Because before, hey, exercise science, like, oh, why didn't I go that route? Well, I studied, I learned how to research. I learned how to take a hypothesis and take these really complex things and distill it down for a customer so I could make it a consumable thing, right? So I think I quickly learned that it's more important for the skills that you develop in your career. And that's what ultimately led me to, to my journey in the marketing and the content side, because I was writing in college and, was trying to get things published. And I was like, I really want to use these skills in sales. That actually led me to start writing blogs for the first company that I was at. And I was doing research, writing and presenting outward. And that's where I started my LinkedIn journey. And ultimately, I started my podcast, the 20% podcast. Quick story on that, because I know you mentioned there. The Pareto principle is the reason why I named the show. And
Hmm.
the reason I named it that is because I had a college professor who said, learn the 20% of information that will teach you 80% what you need to know about a topic. So that right there, that led me to start the show to say, I want to talk to ex-Navy SEALs, TEDx speakers, all of these people that I can, because no matter, if you're Dave in Raleigh, North Carolina, or you're Betsy in California, your experience is important, and your skills, like I could take something that Dave has learned in his career, or I could take something from Betsy and implement it in my job today. So coming back to this, it's so important that the skills that you develop are far more important than the actual roles that you have. And really, it's been my journey, I guess, if you will, to gather as many skills as I can to this day, trying to learn as much as I can so that I can be a well-rounded employee and I could help the company as much as I can.
And I'm so glad we went here, right? Because I think everybody looks at, and look, let's call it more experienced in my career with some gray hair on my head now. And I can look back a little bit of like my journey, which is a little bit unique, right? In terms of, I didn't really get into the corporate world until 30, 31, somewhere in that range. So, but I can see my journey, and it was in terms of, I don't think it was conscious at all. I think I had some great networks that kind of guided me in the right direction, right? But it was not linear. And, it was a title here, but taking a step back here and in title. But I picked up skills that have served me so well over time, right? So well. Like I was in project management for 7 years. Looking back on it, no offense to my project manager folks out there right now, I couldn't imagine myself doing it. But yet those 7 years served me so well,
To cut
right?
you off to
So
cut you off
well.
on that, Dave, but project manager is, when you're, because you're a sales director now, right? There Project management is such a crucial skill, especially when you're running deals, complex deals across multiple
Yeah.
stakeholders, because
Yeah.
you really need to be that quarterback
Yeah.
and you need to sit between all these different departments and really project manage them from
Yep.
where are we today? How do we get everybody together and organize where we're going? And how do we get to this end goal? That's a project in and of itself for every
Oh,
company.
I mean, we've been talking about on my sales team. Hey, that's backward planning. Hey, what are the critical steps, like the critical path as I'm bringing back my project management stuff, right? What's my critical path? Hey, these things I can do on the outside, right, etc. But it's just so funny because I went and I remember being a project manager. I was like, man, I want to go back into sales, go to sales management, take a step back, go back to AE, learn more in SaaS, learn more skill sets, and then come. And I think that's one takeaway that I really have seen over the years is exactly what you said. Take a new role and learn new skills, right? If the budget fits and everything fits and the work from home and all those pieces, take a new role and learn new skills. Don't be scared to kind of go into that realm because it's going to make you so well rounded that and you just learn more. For me, I have to keep learning in a role or I can't do it. Right. Like it just I have to keep learning. I have to keep learning where I kind of get, you know, I don't know, stagnant and I hate that. Right. I hate being to that point.
And the beautiful thing with that, Dave, is, to your point, is like, hey, if you eventually, you said I was in project management, wanted to get back into sales. Right now I've taken this journey across all these different roles too. Although my title now is director of data operations, I could go back to, we could talk in 5 years or whatever, and
Yep.
I could be back in sales or I could be
100%.
in marketing. And you're still taking what you learned here
Yeah.
and you're going to be putting it somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's why I don't, it's, and you're an incredibly curious person. And I am as well. And that's why you want to learn and you want to continue growing your skills. And I just can't fathom, like, I could not imagine doing the same job every single
Mm-hmm.
day
Mm-hmm.
over and over and over again. And that's why it's so important. That's why I love operations, because I get to see all of the pieces and try to put them back together in a cohesive way.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I've also always loved puzzles and like playing solitaire and things like that. So it even your skills date back further than your professional experience as well, is something that I've learned
Oh yeah.
all of
Oh
my
yeah.
interviews.
You can see your DNA, just how you're wired, right? It is, you know, and I've learned not to fight that, right? In my time in my life, that's just how I'm wired, right? I know certain things. Like I know I enjoy it's almost goes into like your weakness and strengths and stuff. But I can take every personality test you ask me in the world. I know what's going to tell me. It's going to tell me I love to hunt. I love to hunt. I love to hunt. I love to hunt. Well, once it's kind of, you know, for lack of a better word, dead, captured, whatever you want to say, my instinct is to move on to the next, right? And not grow and take it and do the admin and cross the T's and put it to bed. My instinct is to go and hunt again, right? Because that's where I want to, that's where I get my, you know, thing out of, right? That's my, you know, that's my joy. And I know deep down when I go, okay, here we are, I now consciously have to go, okay, let's focus here because I know my instinct is to go over here and go hunt again. Right.
Right.
So it is interesting how our, if you know, our DNA plays into this, but let's go to your podcast. Right. And I know we're talking about your podcast on mine. I get it. But here's what I want to go after. I think it takes, you're at, and don't be humble here. What are you at? 270 episodes or something like that?
Let me take a look. I think it was two. Now, let me look. I think it's 286. Yeah, 284. With that,
284 on
with
a
that said,
weekly basis. And you have talked, and I wrote this down, so I'm going to look off to the side here. You've talked to people like Jen Allen Knuth, which I love Jen. You talked to Morgan. Darren McKee is an absolute beast on LinkedIn, incredible follow and person. You've talked to people who are TEDx, New York Times best-selling authors. I think Navy SEALs you've had on. Like you have had some incredible people from all walks of life on. And it's, yes, I want to talk on that, but really what I want to talk on is the dedication and discipline of doing 200 for people who have not done a podcast. I will tell you it's like a journey that you have to commit to, but I love committing to it. I think it's the best decision I have made in my professional career, or one of them, right? But for you to have the discipline to do it, it takes time and effort, and you have to really dedicate to it. I guess the first question is why? Why put so much effort into this?
that's a great question. And at first it was to learn as much as I can. It still continues. That's still my mission, is to learn as much as I can. Um, Taking one step back, I tell everybody, much to your point, starting a podcast was the best professional decision I've ever made in my life. There's three reasons really why I love the podcast. It is learning from people of all different walks of life. It is relationships, which is the number one reason, and number three is business acumen. And I've been able to talk and learn from people at all different kinds of domains, all different industries, verticals, job titles, you name it. And all of that experience, I'm able to go back and talk to that experience of like, oh, hey, Dave, I know you were a recruiter. I know the ins and out. Like, I can't pretend that I was a recruiter and know exactly what you're going through, but I've talked to a lot of recruiters and I could really level and get on the same playing field as somebody else. So that's one of the reasons why I got started. The why I continue is for those reasons as well. I've been able to it's been the reason why I've gotten jobs. It's the reason why some folks even know me in the first place. And in the grand scheme of things, I'm really nobody, right? But what it comes down to is it's just like the relationships that I've built are really carry you to wherever you need to go. And when you get laid off or when there is a reduction in force, you rely on those relationships because you built positive equity with those folks. And you try to, I think of it like a bank, right? Like you want to try to deposit as much as you can into those relationships and then, try not to withdraw as much as you can. But then when you need to withdraw, you go to that person and they're almost always willing to help you. So, you're not doing it just to try to be able to get something later. But what I found is that the relationships that you build are, it makes it so much easier to talk to them or, even, they can help you later on as well.
Yeah, like for me, and you tell me, I've had people ask me, right? And I always laugh at this every time I laugh. And they go, "Are you going to monetize it?" I go, "Monetize it?" I go, "Dude, no, I am not monetizing. I am far from that, right? Maybe one day down the road, is like, I don't know, that the stars align. Sure. That's not the goal. The goal was never, for me, it was never to monetize. It was to learn, it was to get experience doing this. Because for me, and you tell me, I learn like how to interview and have discussions and ask the questions that kind of bring out like I am practicing my, call it what you want, relationships, interview, these kind of skill set. And then yes, I always take away a few things out of each episode that I walk away with literally daily, and I go, man, that's something to write down. And I always write down what I learned out of each podcast. And it's amazing to look back on that document and go, man, some really cool lessons out there. So, it's when I saw what you were doing, I said, man, I know how hard that is. I know you have family, people are sick, you try and go on vacation, you try and edit, oh, someone cancels, and now you're like, it is crazy hard. So that is to me one of an incredible achievement. Now, do you put that, and I should know this, but do you put them on YouTube as well? Do you stick to Spotify? How do you go?
It's really interesting, and I should do again. It's been such a like, I would love to have more time in the day to be able to focus more and do that, or
Yeah.
even just have the resources to just offload and say, hey, go ahead and you do this. So I actually edit, because I do all of my own editing as well. Also, always loved in high school, I loved my video production class. So it's interesting that, coming back to it, you're
Yeah.
still using all the same skills that you love and enjoy. Like take those signals and you're gonna be using them later. So I got to edit all of my shows. Um, so it's just being able to do that. The other big thing on that front is that I don't and every week I don't it's not a new episode every week now, right? I learned over time that one of the biggest flaws and the biggest lessons over the first, I don't know how many years, I think the first 2 or 3 years, it was a new person, new episode every
Mhm.
single week. Over the past year or two, as things get a little bit busier and kids and jobs and focusing and all that stuff, I actually started to replay some of my episodes. So that's one of the biggest lessons that I learned
Mm.
from this is that a lot of the time you're not marketing it as much as you think you could or should. So being able to replay some of those great episodes and really take from that repository has allowed me to continue to have some of those
That's cool.
keep it
That's
keep it going long
that's
term.
that's cool. It's, yeah, look, I think what you've done is amazing. I think it goes into just a building relationships, kind of theme. If it's going to be in your podcast, which I'm telling you, everybody's looking at this going, man, I couldn't do that. I have nothing to talk about. That's not true, right? I think you could have someone on and just pull, right, and just start and start and start. And I'm telling you, it's an adventure that you will learn a ton, right? But even if, like, let's take the podcast out of it for a second, just at your work, and I don't care if you're in sales or in finance or in engineering or CS, whatever it is, operations, building cross functional relationships has been something that I think in this remote world that we live in is harder and harder. And it takes a dedication to say, hey, let's grab 15 minutes, you know, and just, that experience and that, the camaraderie you get and perspective you get. I think that is really at times lost on us as we work remote. And I think what you hit on as, learning and just building those relationships, I think, cannot be lost in this.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's so important whether, obviously in operations, it's a big key part of my job to work cross-functionally and be able to pull all of the people together to try to have one defined vision. And right, like even between your family, like it's hard to order a pizza. And this is actually a Jen Allen line that has always stuck with me as well. Like imagine even just trying to get your family to order a pizza and get the same topping. Like sometimes there's going to be fighting between the four of you, right? How are you going to pull multiple stakeholders together? Well, you understand what they like and you're able to cater to their goals and really sell your own vision of it, or understand what they want and how you could try to continue to get that outcome. So being able to talk with the cross-functional leaders, whether it's, I do this in like any time I would start a new job, it's, hey, I want to go talk to
Mhm.
all of the leaders at each department head, if you will, so I can understand first and foremost who you are as a person. Hey, Dave's an Eagles fan. He loves yada 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 yada. Okay, who are you as the person? And then let's talk about what the day to day looks like. What does your role look like, and what are the most important things that will be aligning on specifically from a data operations perspective. Once
Yeah.
I know what their goals are, then I'm able to report it back to my own team, to my own leadership, to say, hey, with all of these goals, we should, I could look at that lens and say, hey, well, I know that we're trying to fix our cancellation process. Well, that's something that operations needs to know. That's something finance, it is a big pain point for finance, but also it's a huge pain point for our teams in customer success and support, because it's a time suck to be able to take this ticket and manually do this and do that. So now it's like, hey, I'm developing a solution where we could help to streamline this cancellation process. So this project will help this team have less support tickets and time to resolve, which is better customer satisfaction. It's going to have fine when we have automation with this,
Yeah.
automating the things that are important. Finance will be able to get the reports that they need. And when we have our data all together, then our executives are also able to have that one pane of glass and make strategic decisions with data that they know is confident.
Mhm.
So being able to know what's important for everybody and what everybody's working on allows you to do that. Now, whether you're in sales, like if you're, like if I'm in sales selling to IT leaders, well, I'm going to go talk to my IT director and say, hey, how does this land with you if somebody was talking to you about this topic? When you're able to talk to those folks and get on the same level as them, it's going to be so much better. And I think cross-functional, if you ask me what my one superpower is in the interviews, I always say cross-functional relationships, because it's so crucial and it's so important.
That's There's your takeaway right there. Every episode I always go and I go, there's my 40 second, there's my thing that if I'm taking something away, if I'm listening to this, like I knew it was there. I think how you explained it in that 40 seconds was perfect.
Let me
Right.
let
I
me
think
add
that's
let me
so
add
good.
let me add one more to this, because I had a sales coach it was my second job. And I said to him, I was like, hey, I studied exercise science in college and now I'm in sales. Go figure. And he was like, well, I see the direct line. And I leaned in. I'm like, okay, guy, tell me what this compares.
Educate
And
me on that. Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, yeah. Please tell me. He said, when you were studying exercise science, you were looking at the body, all of these different
Mhm.
systems and how they work together to achieve a common output. And you're doing that on the molecular level with a muscle of like, hey, how do all of these things in the body work together to achieve the outcome of force or endurance or whatever your goal is? In business, you're still working with all those, instead of muscles in the different body systems, the different departments are those different systems, and they all work together to achieve some kind of business outcome. So it's really not far off of what you were studying. And that unlock for me is something that I will hold forever. And I was like, you just justified all of my college debt, Thank you so much.
College debt. I will tell you, man. So the pizza story, and I want to get into here. Let's wrap this up. Literally, it's one of the failings of my life in terms of my kids and their pizza. My daughter, love her. She is a barbecue chicken pizza lover. And I go, look, you can't be. Like I grew up in the Northeast. There's cheese. There may be like a mushroom. I'll give you a pepperoni. Like I've even now gone into sausage with my pepperoni. But for her to bring this pizza that looks like some sort of like barbecue sauce drizzle on it with chicken pieces on it and stuff, I go, what under God's name is that? Like, what's that? Right. And she's like, oh, try it. I tried it once. I was like, this is freaking horrible. Get this away from me. I let it go 2 months. I go, I'm going to try it again. I'm going to give you a fair shot. Right. Horrible. Absolutely disgusting. Right. You don't see the Dave guy from Barstool doing one bite. Everybody knows the rules with barbecue chicken, right? It's cheese, right? So you bring up pizza and instant, like you're talking and my brain is going to how I failed my daughter as a like pizza lover, right? So there's that. I just had to share that. I'm sorry. That has no relevance. There's no background at all. It's just this is my brain.
Speaking of the monetizing, we should hit up some pizza shops or something after this because I've never been so hungry at 7:40 a.m.
Dude, I will crush something unhealthy right now in 3 seconds, right? Give me that. But look, man, let's wrap this up. But look, I know you're an Eagles fan, so you're a football guy. So let's just start on something easy, and then we'll go into the hard one in a second. Patriots, how in the world they hit a quarterback and a coach again? I can't watch them in the Super Bowl for the next 10 years. I can't. I did it for 10 years with Brady. Now I have to do it again with May and Vrabel. Like, come on. I can't.
You know what? It's so fun. I grew up as I moved to Philly about a decade ago, maybe a
Right.
little bit less. But I grew up as a Dolphins fan. So my whole childhood, I joke around, is that, being a Dolphins fan was number one, the best sales experience ever because I learned grit and how to push through it. But also, Tom Brady ruined my childhood for the 17 years or whatever he was
Oh,
doing.
sure.
He was every single year. But also, ultimately, I learned to respect him because he's the GOAT and he's great. But to your point with the Patriots now, like I'm excited for this this throwback of the old Super Bowl. It reminds me of the horrors of not running the ball with
I
Marshawn Lynch.
I
Which
couldn't imagine. We're going to see that replayed now 100 times between now and the game. I couldn't imagine being a Seahawks fan sitting there on the 1 yard line and not giving the ball to Marshawn Lynch. I couldn't even imagine what was going through their brains when they saw the interception.
and
Right.
I can't imagine the horrors that Russell Wilson is going through today when he realizes that these two teams are going back at
Oh,
it.
it's comical. So, are you going to be the next Eagles offensive coordinator, man? Like, are you going to be it, dude?
You know what? I wish, and I joke. If you ask my wife, she would think that I am the coordinator with how I watch these games. I am. I have NFL Plus on my computer. I analyze the teams. I'm way too far into it. And I don't know if
You
this is.
got the setup back there. I mean, you got a soundboard that looks like you're like mixing like stuff at a rave somewhere, for God's sake, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
so
but yeah, so I mean, so I would love to. One of my neighbors is actually one of the executives on the Eagles, so I try to talk to him every when I can. I'm like,
look,
hey, I before the playoff game, the morning of, I said to him, I said, hey, you guys got to do a couple different things. You got to get the ball, throw the ball deeper on first down. You guys are way too predictable running the right side every single time. You're wasting a down. If you're going to get that deeper, it's going to open up the run game. And they didn't listen to me.
they
And
didn't listen. But look, if you can get me into the draft room here coming up with Howie, I'd pay a lot of money to be in. I won't say anything. Put me in the corner. Just let me sit there for 3 days and watch the draft in the war room with the Eagles. I would pay a lot of money. I'll walk to Philadelphia now if you want me to. I'll get there, right? Like, I'm not a problem, you know?
absolutely, absolutely.
That's it. Well, look, man, thank you so much. This has never, it doesn't disappoint. You didn't disappoint. I think you brought incredible insight in terms of the relationships and kind of what you've done over your career and the pieces you put together to really craft what I think right now is so well rounded, especially in this day and age of data. It's for those folks, I'm telling you, man, those relationships that you can build and those positions you take that may seem like a step back, where you just learn a new skill and a new set and new industry, go for it, man. So thank you, Tyler, man. It is great. By the way, I'm on yours in 48 hours, man. We get to run this back. I don't know what the hell you're going to ask me, but I'm going to be honest with you. So I'm looking forward to it. And if you guys don't follow, and Tyler, plug it up, man. What's your podcast called?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Dave. And I'm so excited for that conversation too. And we're gonna be hearing more as a little preview of Dave's background leading up to when he was the project manager, Dave,
Oof.
in the recruitment all the way to where he is today. So I'm super excited. The show is the 20% podcast, as we talked about. Could find it on Apple, Spotify, and I realized I didn't answer your full question before. Not all videos are on YouTube, but that's something that I want to try to do more of.
We get you there, man. I love my YouTube. There's nothing better than, my kids think I'm like, geeking out, but that's okay. It's all good. Well,
Absolutely.
look, everybody, thank you so much. One more week down. I hope you enjoyed Tyler. Check out his podcast on the 20% podcast. Be safe. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.